All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. On this rainy, icy day, uh, came in earlier, slipping, sliding around, but I made it here. So stay at home. I hope everyone's warm and safe. An update, I guess. Of course, whenever we come back, you'll have your test. You need to review your notes. You have the PowerPoint. If you need to read, it's chapters 3 and 4 in your book, units 3 and 4. A lot of this we've read and tested over in other ways, but this will be SAQ. So specifically, scientific revolution, agricultural revolution, the commercial consumer revolution, military revolution, um, theories and forms of government, stuff like that. But other than that, you'll be good. Today, I just want to do a quick beginning intro of the French Revolution. All we're going to do is go over the CED. I'm going to introduce some key terms and look at a map and some sources. But again, all of this stuff we have read. Some of it we've even quizzed over before, or I've mentioned in other lectures. So a lot of it's not new either, but you'll be ready to go for it. And this is just another way to get it. So anyway, but I'm not going to cover this in class. I expect you to have known it, right? So here we go. So, long-term and short-term political, economic, social causes, as well as Enlightenment ideas. You have short-term fiscal issues, really the catapult and beginning of the French Revolution, the looming national debt crisis. We'll look at that later. And so when it first starts off, the first or liberal phase of the French Revolution, what it does under the National Assembly is establishes a constitution, the Constitution of 1791, which is keeps the king in place, King Louis XVI in place as a constitutional monarchy. It increases popular participation in government amongst more men. It keeps the Catholic Church, but it nationalizes it, and it abolishes feudalistic hereditary privileges. However, Louis XVI, by the more radical phase of the French Revolution, will be beheaded, and a republic will be announced. Although it's not all that Republican, the radical Jacobin faction led by Maximilian Robespierre will take over, and the Committee of Public Safety, with him at the helm, will institute the Reign of Terror, killing, imprisoning those who are enemies of the revolution, right? And so there's domestic policies to instill the revolution and to protect it abroad. They export the revolution by going to war with countries around them. We'll look at that too. We'll see some more radical revolutionary things at home as well, fixing prices and wages, de-Christianizing France, a very radical change from the past, right? And also we'll look at how they raised the revolutionary armies, conscription, and like I said, exporting the revolution abroad. Some specifics you need to know on those four main topics are peasant and bourgeois grievances, mainly economic, bread shortages, and the French debt caused by their involvement in the American Revolution. During the more moderate and beginning phases of the French Revolution, you had the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen. We'll look at that. Civil Constitution of the Clergy, Constitution of 1791, and the August Decrees, which abolished feudalistic hereditary privileges. They got rid of the province system and installed departments, right? The département. And these are like it's a federalist system where France is divided not into its old feudalistic provinces, but new departments that do a lot of the governing themselves. We'll look at some of the more radical side, some of its leaders like Maximilien Robespierre, Georges Danton, Jean-Paul Marat, and their Committee of Public Safety. And specifically French's draft mass conscription, the Levet en masse. Okay, let's see if I can do this. We need to go to the next slide. Is it going to work? What am I doing here? Maybe this will give you some time to write it down while I figure out how to work the slideshow. Okay, that's okay. Yes, this is where we need to be. Key terms. They're not in any order. And I haven't mentioned any people yet. But again, I'll expect you to kind of know these as we begin the lecture, right? Again, in the reading here, we did, and there's the readings recorded. So if you need to, before we come back to class, especially after we've taken your SAQ test, you need to maybe go back over the reading. That's chapter 5. They devote a whole chapter. Basically, all of Unit 5 is the French Revolution. You've got to know it, right? It's the great tipping point in European history. Old Christian, feudal, medieval, it finally tips industrial, modern, increasingly atheist, nationalistic, more modern Europe. The tipping point in European history, modern European history, is the French Revolution. Bourgeoisie, that is that new moneyed middle class that has been growing and gaining power and wealth since the medieval period. We use that French term bourgeoisie outside of France as well. Declaration of Rights in Man and Citizen, you can compare this to the Declaration of Independence, right? Or maybe any other document like the letter from Jamaica, right? For our world history students. This basically outlines rights of man and citizen, chock full of enlightenment ideas, right? That people get to decide how they're governed, who governs them, that they are endowed with their creator, with equality naturally from birth, right? Stuff like that. And we'll look at an excerpt from that. Notedly, one of its primary writers was the Marquis de Lafayette, the namesake of Fayetteville, right, and other places throughout the United States, because he helped George Washington in the American Revolution. He was a French aide-de-camp during the Revolutionary War. He comes back with a lot of those revolutionary ideas, and then him and Thomas Jefferson become buddies. And Thomas Jefferson, of course, was the principal writer of our Declaration of Independence, and the Marquis de Lafayette borrows a lot of those ideas there. The National Assembly will also establish the civil constitution of the clergy. The Catholic Church, which had been run from, of course, Rome, the Gallican Church, when we talk about it in France, becomes a body of the state. They don't get rid of it. But what happens is the state pays them. The state runs their courts. The state appoints the bishops. And so all the stuff that the church had done itself is now done by the state, right? The Constitution of 1791 is the government that's established by the National Assembly. It keeps the king, but he has to work with the National Assembly. It's a parliamentary monarchy, not unlike that in England, right? Or compare it to the king as like the president, because they do borrow a lot from the United States Constitution, which was in the works at the same time, right? A lot of these Enlightenment ideas are filling the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen, Civil Constitution of Clergy, the Constitution. So none of this is new. It's just a lot of ideas. The department system in France, which still exists today, I think there's over 80 of them. You look at the map of France, it's divided into departments. Like you look at the United States, it's divided into states, right? And these departments do a lot of the different governing systems. They have little governors. They, just like the United States. In the radical phase of the revolution, the radical revolutionary party, the Jacobins, will take over, right? They are not moderates. They are run by heady lawyers, bourgeoisie, urban middle class groups like the sans-culottes, the elite, not the elite, excuse me, the urban lower middle class, who they don't care about the church. They don't care about the king. They want a radical revolution. And it's under them that the most radical parts of the revolution take place, right? The Reign of Terror instituted by the Committee of Public Safety, mass conscription, levy en masse. The king is killed. The church is eliminated under the Jacobin Party. Some stuff they did. We call their leader body the Committee of Public Safety. Again, it's called public safety. They killed a lot of people. The safety thing was the safety of the revolution. And you'll see this in like later things. I was talking with a friend who's going to be a missionary in Cuba, going to establish a church in Cuba, church plant. And he has to get his he has to get his passport approved by their I don't think it's committee, but it's something, we'll just say committee or body or something. Committee for the Defense of the Revolution, right? Well, the job of Defense of the Revolution Committee is if you say something against the revolution, you're killed. So the Committee of Public Safety is keeping the republic and the public and the revolution safe by killing people who are against it, right? And often, and the problem with liberalism is it's self-eating. We see that in America's modern liberalism, right? You'll see them say something like, believe all women, except when the women come out and say things about people on the left, then we don't believe them anymore, right? The same thing happens in the Committee of Public Safety is eventually people like Jean-Paul Marat and Maximilien Robespierre, who were ardent, Jacobins, will end up dead because these things get out of control, right? Thus, the necessary role of reaction and conservatism in modern politics coming out of the French Revolution. Instituting the first huge, big draft in Europe, not only to protect and parole within, but also to export the revolution to countries abroad, called the Levée en Masse. And a lot of draft systems today are inspired and designed in the same way. Of course, the Enlightenment, what we've just coming out of, keep in mind that these ideas, we talked about them, they took place leading up to, but they're now being implemented in this age of revolution. The Reign of Terror is the most deadly radical phase at home of the French Revolution, called the Reign of Terror because it was a reign of terror. People were beheaded if they were enemies of the revolution or thought to be enemies of the revolution. Many revolutionary leaders themselves would end up killed in the Reign of Terror. No one was safe. The numbers are spotty, but at the highest, maybe 100,000 people killed by guillotine. I think most historians agree about 80,000. And the August Decrees, initiated during the more liberal beginning parts of the French Revolution, abolishing feudal privileges and abolishing the province system in France in August 1791, the August Decrees. Let's look at an example here. I'm going to try to hide the floating meeting controls. Very good. Press escape to show floating meeting controls. Excellent. Let's look at an excerpt from the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen. This is actually its very beginning. And see if this sounds very familiar, right? Men are born and remain free and equal in rights. It sounds like our Declaration of Independence, right? Or natural right theory, as expounded by John Locke. Social distinctions may be founded only upon the general good, which that's very unique. That social distinctions, they do exist, but only for the general good. Of course, the more radical phases of the French Revolution will go further than this, right? The aim of all political association is the preservation of the natural and imprescriptible rights of man. That they, of course, the root word that is prescribed. They're natural and they have been given to man, right? You get a prescription, it's prescribed to you, it's given to you. It's your right, right? These rights are liberty, property. Who does that sound like? John Locke, that's right. Security and resistance to oppression, right? A little bit of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the right to revolution, right? Very good. And again, none of this is new. They have experienced the English Civil War, the Glorious Revolution, the American Revolution. It's all here, right? It's come up to this boiling point, the French Revolution, toppling the grandest, oldest, strongest continental absolutist force, the monarchy in France. The principle of all sovereignty resides essentially in the nation. Popular sovereignty, right? John Locke idea. People get to decide, the nation, the people get to decide what their government is. If they don't like it, deuces. Nobody, nor individual, may exercise any authority which does not proceed directly from the nation. Liberty consists in the freedom to do everything which injures no one else. Hence, the exercise of the natural rights of each man has no limits except those which assure to the other members of the society the enjoyment of the same rights. These limits can only be determined by law, not by some decree from a king, right? Law can only prohibit such actions as are hurtful to society. Nothing may be prevented which is not forbidden by law, and no one may be forced to do anything not provided for. by law. So we have protections for individual liberties here and freedom of expression, no doubt, printing and the press and speech and assembly, petition, some Voltaire ideas in here. Law is the expression of the general will, literally quoting Jean-Jacques Rousseau's general will. Again, we had studied how this idea seems good in theory, but it's kind of hard to discern. And so in the more liberal phases of the French Revolution, it's not too bad. But in the radical phases, one could say the general will was to kill 80,000 people. Keep that in mind for the rest of European history. Every citizen has a right to participate personally. Again, it's somewhat indirect through his representative. It's not direct democracy. And when it says citizen, citizenship is only conferred still in the beginning to white, upper class, landowning property males. Though for France at this time, 1790 to 1800, this is some of the most radically democratic stuff happening in the world outside of perhaps the United States, right? In city-states in Africa, you know. It must be the same for all, whether it protects or punishes. All citizens, being equal in the eyes of the law, are equally eligible to all dignities and to all public positions and occupations, according to their abilities and without distinction, except that of their virtues and talents. So we have a meritocracy, M-E-R-I-T, ocracy, O-C-R-A-C-Y, that people have a position not based off if they were appointed by the king, nobles of the robe, but they should have a job in bureaucracy in the government and whatever under the National Assembly, under this Constitution, under this Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen, based off if they can do the job, right? And we're going to see this increasingly prominent in Europe, starting here in France. Okay, that's the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen. So let's look at this. This is an excerpt from the August Decrees. The National Assembly hereby completely abolished the feudal system, period. It decrees that among the existing rights and dues, both feudal and censual, that's like, that just means like in certain parts. All those originating in or representing real or personal serfdom shall be abolished without indemnification. So serfs and peasants are not owned by nobles or on the land anymore. And guess what? We don't owe you any money. That's what indemnification means. The indemnity, money for it. All other dues are declared redeemable, the terms and mode of redemption to be fixed by the National Assembly. Those of the said dues which are not extinguished by this decree shall continue to be collected until indemnification shall take place. Next, you know, we've talked about hunting and sport in this class, stuff I love, I wish I could be doing right now, and I may if it stops raining, right? The exclusive right to maintain pigeon houses and dove cotes is abolished. If you want to have a pigeon and a dove, you can. No longer a feudal lord gets to go out and go bird hunting because it's their land. No, it's everyone's land, right? Also, pigeons were used for communication. Pigeons have a homing ability. And so people with money could communicate via pigeon and letter. That was practiced until World War II, by the way, by our own militaries. The pigeon shall be confined during the seasons fixed by the community, the department. During such periods, they shall be looked upon as game, and everyone shall have the right to kill them upon his own land. Remember, we talked about in the United States, the unique ability to hunt, which is protected and loved by so many. This because they came out of a European tradition where it was the upper class nobility, right, who had the land and the means and the game and the dogs and the horses and the guns to hunt, right? The exclusive right to hunt and maintain unenclosed warrens is likewise abolished, and every landowner shall have the right to kill or to have destroyed on his own land all kinds of game, observing, however, such police regulations as may be established with the view to the safety of the public. So, an excerpt from the August Decrees, ending feudal obligations, ending feudalism, including hunting, right? And so that last part you may not see on the test, but I put it because, of course, I love it. And ending here. Here's a map of Europe as we come into the French Revolution. I'll just point out a few things. France's borders are more or less where they are today, give or take, of course. It will grow at the end of the French Revolution, the empire, right, under Napoleon. We'll go all the way to Moscow. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but right there, kind of the middle of Russia, under the R, perhaps. Spain and Portugal's borders. I guess the big thing to point out here is that, again, the old Holy Roman Empire states of what we would call, let's just say, Germany and Italy, still divided. That's going to kind of change after Napoleon walks through a lot of them. They start to get a sense of nationalism and power and an urge for unification to not have that happen again. Notice the largest and most important single state in the German part is Prussia, we had talked about. This is right before, Polish Lithuania is broken up in the 1790s between Russia, Prussia, and Austria. But you can see Austria, it's extended east on that purple line, on that river there. This is the Danube, right? About where the purple line and the blue line meet is Vienna. The Ottomans are stopped at Vienna. From this point on, the Ottoman Empire is going to be pushed back and weakened. In fact, in the 1800s, we have the burgeoning Balkan nationalist movement, where a lot of different entities here, Christians, Greeks, of all sorts, will start to get their independence from the Ottoman Empire. What else? Notice Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. It's pink, just like all the others. Trying to see if there's anything else. You notice there's an independent Netherlands, right? Immediately after the fall of Napoleon, Netherlands and then this Flanders part, Belgium, will become one, but it's only one for not even like 50 years. I don't really have anything else to say, but this is the map of Europe, 1790-ish, coming into the French Revolution. So let's see, is that it? Yep, that's it. This is where I want to end. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Like I said, oh, there's the bell. Hey, right on time, baby. Right on time. Like I said, I'm trying to make this big screen, your screen sharing, stop sharing, try to make this big screen. There we go. Like I said, unit 3 and 4, as soon as we come back from break, however long this is, you're going to have your SAQ, units 3 and 4. You know what to look over. If you have any questions, email my Gmail. I hate to say that, but I guess I'll answer, but I'll email my Gmail at Berryville, because I come to school to do this. Again, make sure you do your packet of work too. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, well, thank you for checking in. I'll expect you know this stuff. So this is just like a regular class. So I'm gonna stop recording. I'm gonna post this on YouTube. Deuces, W.